Welcome back to this already the final segment of today's Price of Business, and I am your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Chris Kidd, he's a regular contributor on the show. You know that. One of the reasons why you listen. And chriskidd.com, that's K-I-D-D, does a great job of bringing incredible information on what's going on out there when it comes to people and their money. And I love it when we get to talk to people, particularly in the fields of entertainment and sports when it comes to money. It's always a lot of fun. And by the way, Chris is going to be making an appearance on Saturday with me at V's Barbershop, which is over there in the Energy Corridor. Looking forward to seeing you there. That place is phenomenal. I don't know if you've been there yet.
I have not been there, but I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah, I got my hair cut about 2 weeks ago from there, and honestly, it's like I can't wait to go back, which has never been my haircutting experience. And I'm being sincere. It's one of those utility type things you do, but it's kind of like a spa for men, and it's really you get spoiled at that place. So it'll be fun. All right. As always, you've got great guests, but before you tell us about your guests, tell us a little bit about what you do to help mankind.
Well, my contribution to mankind, I'm a financial coach. I'm I guess an entrepreneur because I have a lot of hats and a lot of businesses and things I've done. But my real passion is helping people with, finances, money situations, whether it's, getting out of debt or trying to start building some wealth. A lot of times, somebody may come to me who makes a good deal of money but doesn't have anything to show for it. And they say, well, how do you help me get on track here? And when it comes to managing stuff, a lot of times there's so many people who get taken advantage of, especially, you see it in athletes and entertainers and stuff, people who come into a lot of money. And I always say, if you don't have a plan for it, somebody else does. So whether you're making your own investments or you're handing it to somebody else to kind of manage for you, you need to at least understand what's going on. So I try to teach my clients how to be able to better understand that so they can, at least check up on stuff and find out what's going on and if something fishy is going on.
Yeah, and that transcends all vocations and fields. I love the great quote back several years ago now when the NBA was threatening to go on strike, and one of the players said, I make a lot of money, but I spend a lot of money. That pretty much epitomizes a lot of problems that a lot of people have, and they're really not even sure what they're spending their money on. So it's good to have people like you in their corner. Tell us about your guest today. It looks like a great one.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, my guest is involved in a lot of stuff like that. My guest today is Gene Egdorf, and he's with the Lanier Law Firm here in Houston, and they cover a wide variety of legal aspects. But Gene is, like I would say the top dog over there with as far as the sports section of the sports law goes, and he's got some amazing credentials and stuff in that area. But it's good to have you on, Gene. Welcome.
Well, I appreciate it and appreciate the kind words.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your practice.
Well, I've been practicing law for about 25 years now, and I've been at the Lanier Law Firm for about 18 of those, and I'm primarily a commercial litigation lawyer handling business disputes, but from that it's sort of segued out to where I'm doing a lot of sports law-related issues. That have been against the NCAA and concussion cases and other medical cases regarding athletes. I settled the video game case that allowed college athletes to start getting paid for their likenesses to be used in video games. I'm currently representing the PGA Tour caddies against the PGA Tour on some issues, and even today we filed a lawsuit on behalf of the bankruptcy trustee for the failed Comcast sports network, basically on behalf of the Rockets and Astros. So it's the best of both worlds. I get to do the kind of law practice that I like, but I get to do it on fun stuff that's sports that, of course, I've followed my whole life.
Yeah, very good, very good. Chris?
Well, thanks, Gene. You already talked about a couple of my questions.
I'm just trying to make it easy for you, Chris. Just lead you to water, and we'll see if you drink.
Well, yeah, talk a little bit. I wanted you to talk a little bit about that EA Sports lawsuit, but I guess before we even do that, tell us about that PGA lawsuit, because that was really interesting.
Yeah, I know this is a business show, and this is stuff is about business, and it's sort of a common sense to me business issue, which is you do the hard work, and you're the one that's responsible for making somebody money. You ought to get a piece of that pie. And in this situation, the PGA Tour caddies are independent contractors. They don't work for the tour, but they are compelled. They have work rules, in essence, instituted by the PGA Tour that say you can't work an event unless you wear the bibs we want you to wear. And, oh, by the way, we're not going to allow you to get paid for that. And, oh, by the way, you can't get your own sponsors. That just seems to me to violate sort of the fundamental fairness of all this. The tour is making somewhere between $50 and $75 million a year off these bibs that the caddies have to wear. And the caddies went to them and said, look, if you could give us even 10% of that, we can fully fund health care and retirement packages for all of the caddies, who, by the way, pay their own expenses for each event. So if your player doesn't do well, you're in the hole. And the tour said no.
Hold on, wait a minute. I want to stop you real quick on that. So, How do they get paid if they're affected by their player losing or not doing well?
Yeah. So every caddy has his own deal with a player, and they vary from player to player. But the gist of what you see typically is this: a caddy will get some sort of weekly stipend, maybe $750 a week, $1,000 a week that they work an event, which typically a player will play 20 to 30 events a year. The caddy pays all their expenses, air travel, rental car, hotel, food, and all of that. And then the caddy's compensation is a percentage of how the player does. And so typically if a player wins an event, the average deal, a caddy will make 10% of those winnings. So, a standard, a player wins $1 million to win an event, a caddy can have a good week and make $100,000. And then it's sort of a stair step down to where if you just make the cut, it might be 5 or 6%. I've got clients whose players only made a few cuts, and the caddies actually lost money on the year because of the way their expenses were.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, I remember when several years ago when Tiger Woods was just really tearing it up, his caddy was like second on the money list on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, Steve Williams, who was the caddy for Tiger back in the days when Tiger was winning, is actually one of my clients. Steve took over, was caddying for Adam Scott when he won the Masters, and then retired, and he's recently coming back. But Steve Williams made a lot of money. But I can also tell you we've had some financial analysis done and talked to some marketing people. It's been estimated to us that if Steve Williams could have put a sponsor logo on his bib at his own choosing, that bib could have been worth somewhere near $10 million a year to him.
Wow.
And so what you're talking about is not necessarily, taking off the other sponsor logos, just allow them to have another non-competing from whatever the PGA has on their bid.
Well, it's a twofold thing. One, we would argue that legally the sponsor logo that's there by itself should have remuneration to the caddies. But certainly as well, the caddy should have the right to add any other sponsorships that they want, whether and if the caddy wants to have their bib look like a NASCAR car, they can do that. There's not much regulation of players, and, we don't think the caddies should be treated any differently than that as independent contractors.
Well, you said they asked for like 10%, right? That they thought that would, that seems extremely fair to me. That even sounds kind of like getting lowballing yourself.
Well, but this, I'll say a couple things about that. The 10% came before these guys came to me. This was them through their general meetings and negotiations trying to come to an agreement to do something reasonable and good for the caddies. It was important for the caddies. When the tour said, no, we're not going to pay for that, the caddies started talking to some lawyers who said, maybe, this bib really should belong to you guys. And they went back to the tour and said, all right, well, we'd like a piece of the revenues from the bibs. And the tour said, absolutely not. And so that's when I was contacted, and, based on, my research and previous work with, like, the EA case and O'Bannon case and whatnot, it was pretty clear to me that these bibs legally should belong to the caddies. Now, the caddies aren't really interested at all in hurting their players or hurting the tour. I mean, they look at this in essence as, for lack of a better word, sort of a partnership situation where everybody should benefit and everybody can do well.
Yeah.
But when you look at the global scheme of this, Tour Commissioner Fincham for the PGA Tour makes somewhere between $8 and $10 million a year. But half of that can't be, half of that's an unacceptable number to make sure the caddies have their families have health care and retirement. I mean, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Gene, I'm sorry, we're going to literally run out of clock. You'll
Sure.
be talking just to the to the two of us here. But Gene Egdorf, you can learn more about him at the Lanier Law Firm website, which is lanierlawfirm.com. Chris Kidd, you can always find out about him at chriskidd, that's 2Ds.com. And by the way, he's got great content over there at usdatareview.com. I'm sure this will be parlayed into an article as well.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
All right. When we come back tomorrow, we're going to have much more for you. Actually, Monday, we're going to have much more for you. Have a great weekend. Spend it right here on this station.